All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. We can go ahead and get started. So we just have our normal updates today. So we will have time at the end of the call if anyone has anything they would like to discuss, but we will start off with a 5G update. I don't see Suresh on the call. Someone else going to step up with that update?
Yeah, I can jump in, I guess.
Thank you.
So yeah, the team has been quite busy. So over the 5G branch, now we are at a state where we are testing all the P0 test cases, and 7 out of 9 P1 test cases are passing. One of them is partially passing, the other is pending a feature development, and some of the P2 tests are also passing. So the plan is for us to now accelerate the migration from 5G branch to the master branch. The team is raising PRs. I am asking them to divide those PRs into smaller pieces, but unfortunately, one of them at least will be a sizable PR that will be contained to the MMU service side. And how the plan is, by the end of the month, whatever is passing on the TerraVM side, these test cases, basically that code, our plan is to land on the master branch. And about, mid-August or so, we want to also completely do a switch over to the Ubuntu, for our testing moving forward. Currently, we are still on Debian in our test environment.
Thanks, Ulas. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, then we can move on to the next update, which will be from DevOps. Tim, are you on the call, or Therese?
Yes. Hello guys, a few DevOps updates. The first one is the pull request that is going to map the source code to the new registry is done, and we'll it's currently in testing phase. So basically now you won't have to build Magma anymore. Every single image's Helm chart will be pulled from the registry. We've been doing some stats, and it will improve the deployment process on an average of 30%. So that's a big win, and we're very excited to merge that pull request. The next one is we've been working on the H2 roadmap, and if you guys are interested in knowing what we're going to tackle for the next half, please join the next DevOps call where we're going to go through the DevOps roadmap. We redesigned completely the release process. We've been doing a few releases that were automated from 1.3.0 to 1.6, and we've been learning every time we do a new release, and we've been redesigning the whole process to make it even more automated and painless. We identified a new set of jobs in order to test Magma, especially the installation and the upgrade and downgrade path, and we've been starting to work on those jobs within CI. So all the upgrade path will be automated now, automatically tested, sorry. What is currently ongoing, we're still working with Linux Foundation to move all the integration tests, TerraVM testing and Spirate testing to be controlled by the Linux Foundation Jenkins. We are almost done with the GitHub action migration thanks to Jessica from Linux Foundation and Quentin from Facebook. And obviously, we've been on a daily basis helping the community and answer all the questions. Yeah, that's pretty much it about the DevOps update. Please, if you have any question, hit me up or just post something on the DevOps channel on Slack, and we'll be glad to answer you.
Tim, I have a question. In the AWS deployment, have we upgraded the Docker images to the Artifactory ones?
Yeah, the progress is currently we're currently testing those images before publishing those to the public.
And regarding the orchestrator side, it's currently 1.17. So do we plan to upgrade this, or for a specific reason we are sticking to this version?
Everything will be upgraded when the pull request that I told previously will be tested 100%.
Okay,
Just
what version?
hang tight.
What version are we targeting?
I don't have it with me right now, but like just ping me in one and I'll give it to you.
Okay, sure, thanks.
Any other questions for Tim? All right, thank you so much, Tim. We will go to the next update, which will be a release update from Echo.
Right, thanks, Kendall. So quickly, I think last week we shipped Magma v1.6, which was our quarterly release for the quarter just ending. The release notes has a lot more information, but for the viewers that run on this call, just quickly talking about some of the features and enhancements. This release represented a major milestone for us at Facebook. There were lots of huge performance improvements to the gateway and then to the platform. Lots of other features like inbound roaming, which was first launched in 1.5, got other enhancements, including paging support. Other new features like tag restriction, congestion control, even the lawful intercept solution, introducing the X1, X2, and X3 interfaces were all a part of this release. Overall, lots of great stuff for the gateway, the platform, and then the cloud, where for the first time, we had pre-built AGW AMIs available from the AWS marketplace. So overall, lots of good stuff in the release, and I would encourage all of you to check the release note to learn a bit more about this release. So sharing a little bit more about the future of releases for Magma, we are looking to break away from the quarterly release cycle and get into a cadence where we are releasing more often. For now, the cadence that we are targeting is at the end of every sprint, and our sprints usually last no more than 3 weeks. We know it's going to be a huge effort, and so over the past half, we've been investing very heavily in making sure that we have the features, the tooling, as well as the necessary approaches to make sure that we are successful moving away from this quarterly release cycle. Some of the investments we've made has been in the CI workspace, and Tim was essentially talking about some of the investments we've made to greatly improve release management in general. There's also been huge improvements to how we do testing. We've built lots of automation around how we test and release Magma, and we've even gone ahead to hook up some of this automation and tooling to CI to make sure that as we develop code and as we run the sprint, at the end of every sprint, we can test faster and then get into a space where we can start releasing a lot faster. There's also been other investments in hardware in the loop testing infrastructure. I'm not quite sure how widely this has been circulated, but all this will be formalized and shared more broadly with the team, including documentation and how to access each and every one of these tools, processes, and essentially how the community can participate in making sure that we are successful moving off from this quarterly cycle and then achieve it more regular releases in the future. So yeah, that's the update for the release space. The next release is going to be 1.7. We are still ironing a few things in the roadmap, and once that is finalized, I'll share it at our next call. Yeah, so that's a quick update from the release part, Kendall. Any questions? I'll take them right now.
So, Echo, I have a couple of questions. Prabhjot here from Aruna Networks.
Yeah.
So number one is when you talk about your release cadence process, is there any documentation that we can refer to that gives an idea about end of life of a release or some sort of LTS support for any of the release that mechanism that you may be following. And additionally, you mentioned that you're looking forward to move to a faster release cadence. How this process potentially will change. There are a lot of questions, right, in that domain. Probably not everything needs to be answered, as you mentioned. It's still a thing that you guys are looking forward to, but information on that front would be really important for anybody externally looking forward to consume Magma.
Yes, absolutely. So so because I don't want to speculate too much, what we are looking to do is to document all these processes and put it forward in a proposal format so that as much as we want to go forward with that plan, we also like to solicit some feedback from this community to ensure that whatever plan we decide to go with works well for us and then for the community as well. But I guess a summarized version to this answer is we are going to provide a document that essentially shares everything that I've talked about into more detail so that we can provide us input directly to figure out how we can converge on a process that works well for everyone.
Sure, I will be happy to collaborate, but I'm actually looking forward to what is the current state, how we are using them as of today, right? So if I want to pick any release today, let's say if I pick 1.6, the latest release, right? So how long I'm safe to use that, right? So that's kind of the concern I'm trying to get a handle on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so for that one, I think Phil Ritter actually is also looking at that, because let me back up a bit. I think your point is a very valid one. We for release processes, like if you look at other open source projects like Linux, right, they have a concept of like a long-term stable release, and other releases that are released often but are not maybe LTS releases. So I think something Phil was looking for is like, as we increase our release cadence, what are we going to say about support duration for any given release? And that's something that we don't really have a policy on now even, but we hope to have that defined when we put the proposal forward.
Yeah, Brian, that's being worked right now, and I don't have a statement that I could give you for that right out of the gate. It's actually fairly complicated as you think about a commitment to backporting fixes into that long-term stable release and our ability to actually manage it over a period of time and what that period of time is. So stay tuned for that. And that's an active question for us.
Absolutely.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, and so just to reiterate, like I was saying, this would be first of a proposal that we share with the community to solicit feedback, and we'll take that feedback and make sure that we consolidate everything and leave with a process that works well for everyone, right?
Yeah, just to chime in also, I mean, historically, it has been really hard for us to backport fixes to release behind, basically. So if we are at 1.6, it is really difficult to backport things to 1.3 from that branch. There are just so many merge conflicts. So I guess we need to also take into account some historical data in terms of how much master is diverging at what velocity.
Yeah, Ulas, that's exactly the kind of question that we need to dig into and find an answer to. And saying that we'll go back one release with backports but not two was likely workable when we were releasing quarterly or less. You know, when we targeted quarterly and we're probably hitting somewhere between 4 and 6 months for the actual release. But if we're going to go to every 3 weeks, saying that we'll only backport one release cycle is probably not suitable from a user's perspective either. So there's some balances we're going to have to find in that.
Yeah, I'll jump in here to make a comment. Is that I think that I acknowledge that the telco industry has a mindset of trusting software because of how long it's been running, right? The notion that it's been battle proven, been used in production for a while, is a reason to trust it. I think that we as a project want to change that paradigm. And I know it's a cultural battle to one where software is trusted because of how good the unit test coverage and integration test coverage is and release test coverage is, right? That's the model that lets you know, a lot of more modern software organizations release much more often and still trust it and have extremely high availability. And so I think that this is some of the things we need to sort out as an organization, is like, how do we do both? How do we try to bring the industry along and try to transform the culture while acknowledging that we're not going to transform it overnight? And so there's this balance here. And I think that's where there needs to be a broader community discussion. There are interesting ways to blend it, right? I'll note that, like, you could imagine us releasing often, publishing extensive reports about the rigor and coverage of all of our tests publicly, and providing dashboards to operators on who's maybe anonymized, who's been running what build for how long in production, right? To the community on the release page, letting customers that want to trust things based on precedence and duration of deployment pick builds based on that. Let other ones maybe ride the modern part and pick builds based on that. Or even say we'll provide releases to you know, back ports to whatever the top 3 builds are that people are running. There's like different strategies. Some organizations would never backport, right? Some would say we only fix forward in a more CI/CD environment.
I can kind of connect to all the comments that are made over here, and just taking a step back, and I'm trying to say that it's not something that I'm looking forward to some long-term 2 years kind of release support. It's just a number that we are looking forward to at least start our discussions, right? That, okay, I will not be asked to migrate to a newer release, at least, let's say, just for an example, as Ulas mentioned, right? That maybe 6 months, right? So every quarter you are releasing a new release, and then you say that, okay, I can backport to one release. So maybe 6 months is a short answer for what we are in right now. So that is the kind of direction and understanding I'm actually looking forward to in short term. And then, yes, for long term, it will be a longer process, as you mentioned, and we are happy to work with community to get that documented, as well as become some sort of adoptable method.
Another thing is, I guess the users also, a lot of users are doing their own hot fixes, patches as well. So that comfort level, improving that comfort level is also important.
Yeah. So overall, I think lots of healthy discussion around this new concept. So like I shared, we'll put this in a proposal, make sure we have a really thorough discussion in the community, and then we'll iron out any pending issues, and then try to consolidate the plan for us for how we move away from a quarterly to a more frequent and faster release cycle. Right, so thank you all very much. Back to you, Kendall.
Thanks, Echo. So that is actually the end of our agenda. Is there anything else that people would like to bring up and discuss?
Yeah, Kendall, one small logistic issue. Yeah, an hour ago, I checked the calendar. There was no invite published. So thought that because it's a bi-weekly call, to this week, we may not have the call. And later on, suddenly, someone in the team indicated the call is going on. I'm sorry for that. We should have joined on time. But let's have a calendar invite, if not difficult to have.
Yeah, I can resend the calendar invite to you if that's helpful.
Yeah, thanks,
Okay.
Kendall.
Yes, of course.
I have a question on the release 1.6. I was looking to the test report. It says like we are peak throughput is 400 MB and with 12 node Bs, right? This is with on a single network we have connected, on a single access gateway we have connected multiple like 12 node Bs. Is that correct?
Sorry, so if I understood you, you're asking if the 400 megabit per second for 12 inode Bs is referring to the measurement on just one access gateway, yes?
Yeah. So that limit is for the access gateway or the inode B?
Oh, the access gateway. The access gateway.
So okay. So one access gateway has that limit, like.
Yep.
Okay. The speed limit is also there, and inode B limit is also there.
Yes,
I mean, those are not hard limits. I mean, this
exactly.
is what this is what we
Not a hard
tested
limit,
against
yes.
for performance.
Yes.
In the config files, if you see some limits, those are for bucket sizes in the hash table type of configurations, not actually a hard limit on the number of inode Bs.
Okay. So these are
And
the.
it's a as Ulash said, it's not hard limits, because if you increase the number of UEs, for example, you might have to give up a little bit on the throughput side, and if you reduce the number of UEs, you gain more on the throughput side. So there's a balance here. So
yeah. So it depends on the power of your machine. I mean, if you go with the minimum configured access gateway, these are the numbers that we are suggesting. If you have a very powerful access gateway with 36 cores, etc., all running, powerful CPUs, of course, you can try to stretch those numbers in your own testing.
Okay, understood. Thanks.
Thanks.
Hello, everybody. A question to Yakov on the containerization of the AGW. Do we have any dates now when it could be available, Yakov?
Yeah, I can give it a shot. This is Arun here.
Yeah.
So for sprint 1, we want to at least provide the containerized images plus a Docker Compose way to bring it up on a running instance. It might not be fully Kubernetes orchestrated for this release, but at least we want to start allowing the community to use containerized versions. So yeah, we are targeting sprint 1, end of sprint 1 for the images, and there are 2 PRs that are already out there which are documenting the process and the progress. So if you I'll post it on the channel. If you look at it, you would see that all our Python images are now containerized. There is some minor work going on, but we also want to make sure that there is a Docker Compose script that at least brings up all these containers on a Ubuntu 2004 bare metal node, because we still expect OVS to be running on the bare metal host, but at least the services themselves would be containerized.
Okay, thanks, Arun. So safely we could say that by 1.7 we will have a minimal version which will run on a Kubernetes.
Containerized for sure. Kubernetes would probably be alpha maturity, I think. So let me quickly at least walk through the philosophy that we are trying to apply here, right? So the first step is to effectively have them containerized and available from our repositories so that it's easier for folks to pull in and add their own form of orchestration, whatever that could be, Kubernetes, Mesosphere, whatever you have. But as a community, we want to standardize on Kubernetes. So our first step would be to containerize this and then start working on the orchestration. Because right now, I think we have to do some image refinements because our image sizes are really large. So we need to strip down some packages that are there on the host. The other challenge that we are working on is around specifically disaggregation, because right now our image sizes are fairly large. So for the first release, at least, we would not have every service running in its own container. We'll probably have to do some kind of aggregation, actually. So those are challenges that we want to work out first. Get a containerized version for the community to consume, and then when we eventually do some of these image refinements, I think then we'll be able to orchestrate via Kubernetes, and then have them packaged via Helm, have the Helm charts deployed via Terraform, in a way very similar to how your experience with the orchestrator has been, trying to provide the same experience to the AGW as well.
That will be great, Arun. Yeah, thanks, Arun, for those information.
So Arun, okay, sure. Yeah, so Arun, what is the challenge with OVS you guys are facing for containerization? Do you need any help there?
Sure. I mean, you can help us by at least providing inputs right now, and sharing your thoughts on the philosophy, right? So right now, we are looking at running OVS on the bare metal node itself, and then have pipeline D being the entity that communicates to OVS through host networking, right? Everybody else will obviously have a port on local networking, but only have host networking on a need basis. So this will help us create a fully containerized version of the AGW services and have it available for the community to use containerized AGW. For the actual Kubernetes-based version, we still need to have this work with a CNI, and that's something Pravin and I are trying to drive. Pravin's trying to lead, where we'll use an OVN-based CNI so that we can have the containerized Kubernetes orchestrated AGW work without major changes to our code, right?
So
but
you
eventually
look forward to use CNI's data path in that case?
Correct. Yeah. For when we go to Kubernetes, that's where we want to land, right? We want to integrate our code with a CNI. Our first choice is to use the OVN-based CNI because our data path is OVS today, and we want to put something out in the community without major changes to the code. Once we establish that, once we have Kubernetes orchestrated containers working with the CNI, then we have the flexibility to add more CNIs, right? So our long-term direction, and if Pravin's on the call, he can offer other inputs as well, is to look at an eBPF-based Cilium type CNI. I think Pravin's on the call. Pravin, is that a fair summary, do you think?
Yeah, I think first we would like to get the existing OVS-based data path on the CNI, and once we have that up and working, then we can switch to, yeah, I agree what you mentioned.
Hey, thanks, Pravin. Again, Prabhjot, the goal is incremental capabilities without causing major disruptions, right? We don't want to try and land our end state in like 2 sprints, but also want to give something that is workable and also shows the feasibility of what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the way that you're trying to look at it, but I do foresee some challenges. So I have some long history of working with the CNIs on deliverables along with OVS and Tungsten Fabric. So let's get on to some discussion if needed on a offline on this topic specifically. But there are other possible solutions that you should look into. This one will add some hard requirement on how you are going to get access to the CNI data path. And I'm not sure CNI in its own definitive functionality will not be able to give you whole functionality that you are looking forward to utilize in AGW. So there will be challenges involved the way you are looking forward to proceed.
So Prabhjot, I'll pull you and Pravin and myself. We'll get on a Slack thread at least to hash out some ideas. But again, I'll do like a Cliff Note summary of the prototype that we're working towards, right? Which is to use the CNI to manage Kubernetes/control traffic while using quote unquote data path for our business traffic. Does that make sense? So the idea is, even if we are using a non-OVS CNI, the goal for us is to use the underlying data path to punt the packets out that belong to Magma or business traffic, while having the CNI perform the job of routing container traffic that run on different containers within the host. That's the blurb or the abridged version.
I understand. So yeah, as you suggested, let's take it on the Slack channel and then see how this can really fly and deliver the solution expected.
Hey, thanks so much, Prabhjot. Yeah, I'll set something up.
Sure.
So Arun, in terms of performance benchmarking, what is the plan?
So right now we are trying to do a setup for the snow cone snowballs in ENS's lab, Ulash, and that'll validate the quote unquote VM performance. We plan to use the same setup, but instead of the bare metal services, use containerized services. Right now, I'm hoping at least we'll start with a very similar performance, which we can then start tuning. But right now, it's at a proposal level. Effectively trying to use the same setup that we have with the same set of radios that we have for the containerized version as well.
Okay, so the target is not to have any performance regression.
Absolutely. No regression. Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Arun, I have another question. There was some discussions regarding the ARM-based access gateway. So do we have any update on that?
Sure. I don't know if any of the folks from ARM are here as well. We are trying to repeat the same process that we had with the x86 AMI AGW version for ARM. And I don't know if any of the ARM folks are there, but the goal is to provide an ARM-based AGW AMI, have the same kind of DevOps automation that we have today. In essence, trying to flip the AMI number from an x86 AMI to an ARM AMI and have everything else be the same. And Jordan from Connect 5G and the ARM team, Alokik and Augustin and the others, they're working on something similar on this front. If they're on the call, there might be other updates, but that's the goal we are working towards.
Okay. Another question I have, like for some time now, Federation Gateway has been already Dockerized, but I have not seen like people are using it on Kubernetes side. Do we have its code? Because on the deployment side, we use Docker Compose with host network. So how will that work on Kubernetes?
I don't know if we have someone with strong Federation Gateway exposure on this call, but I can give the equivalent for what we're trying to do with AGWs, right? I mean, goal for us is to, like I said, show feasibility first. So Docker Compose is just going to help us show that, yes, all these services can be brought up and on failover, they can be restarted and they'll work on a host appropriately. But eventual goal is to land on Kubernetes with some kind of CNI integration. And I presume it'd be similar for Fed Gateway as well, but don't take my word for it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And regarding the AMIs for 1.6, do we have a plan for like?
Correct. This afternoon, Econ and I are going to do some stuff and get it on board. So yeah, please expect a announcement like tomorrow, the latest.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, Arun, I have one question on the containerization again.
Yes, please.
Yeah. I noted, say, if not fully disaggregated, there will be some level of aggregation. However, as part of the generic recommended approach that you want to give to the community, is there a plan to put in the overlay networking related plugins? Say some level of distribution is there for whatever are the deployment reasons for these network functions. Can we expect the overlay networking feature part of the offering, or that has to be custom developed?
Yeah, that probably has to be flushed out better, because right now, again, as part of just demonstrating feasibility, the goal is to do like a one-to-one map of how an AGW looks and feels today in the containerized world as well, right? But I mean, eventually we want to be able to disaggregate based on function. But like I said, I mean, image size is one challenge. Build environments, I mean, known challenges. It's not like I'm saying it's an insurmountable challenge. We're working through it. But again, for the first phase, we want to be able to show at least a one-to-one map of, oh, here's a systemd based AGW that's running on bare metal, while a comparable containerized version of it running here, because that gives us the foot in the door, right? Once we have done that, once we have refined the images, once we've scaled that down enough to maybe even a custom base image, that allows the flexibility to start disaggregating more, in which case the overlay networking that you mentioned becomes a very important question. Again, I'll also see if Pravin has additional inputs specifically on any overlay challenges, but that hasn't been fleshed out yet, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, noted, Arun. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have a question. When I see the test report, I've mostly seen like we have tested Bicells eNode B. Do we have some other vendor eNode B that we have tested with Magma?
So in the field, there are many other radios that have been tested. Airspan's been tested for sure. Ruckus has been tested for sure. Mavenir has been tested for sure. Sercom's been tested for sure. So in our lab, or at least the one that I have the most visibility into would probably be Bicells. But in the field, there are a variety of other radios that have been tested.
Okay. So, okay, I'll look into it now. Thank you.
And
Yeah.
There's a, sorry, please go ahead.
Go ahead, that's okay.
Now, I just wanted to say we are working on a turnkey solution, right? Which sort of brings in fully validated, fully benchmarked radio devices that will work with Magma and like a physical gateway device. So for that, we are moving forward with Bicells for now. But I mean, if there's a user base that is asking for another radio, then that is something we can consider as an extension, right? So if the first offering is going to go with Bicells in AWS and Magma, and if there is strong customer ask on like a different partner's radio, we can work towards having that as a second offering at some point. So yeah, the question is, if you have a specific radio in mind, or if your customer is asking for a specific radio, please reach out to us and we can figure something out.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Okay, so I had a question with respect to, is there any API changes for Magma Orchestrator that are happening in 1.6? And if yes, where can I find the documentation corresponding to it? Specifically with the inclusion of 5G.
On the orchestrator side, at least I'm not aware of any new API changes for 1.7, but again, Prabhjot, maybe I can take it as an action item unless if Hunter or somebody else is on the call with additional insights. At least looking through what we have in scope for 1.7 on the orchestrator side, I don't think I remember any specific API changes.
The reason I call for this information is because so far on the API side, we call the network as LTE network. And does the terminology change when the 5G comes into play, or we continue using the same? How does it work is something I'm trying to put my head.
Can I jump in on this? That's actually a very good point that you are raising in terms of how we can normalize the API endpoints, especially for the thing that is agnostic to the generation. We need to sort it out. So inputs, contributions are welcome on that front, I think. So one quick addition that we should be adding is, of course, to enable disable 5G features on the access gateway core. So, but that won't require a change in the API endpoint. It is just another field that we can lump into the access gateway configuration. But particularly on the policy management side, etc., there is now a proposal posted by Wavelabs folks. It needs to be discussed. If you want to support, for example, third-party PCFs, since it's a RESTful API, where is the landing point for that? Traditionally, we integrate through the FAG, but when it comes to RESTful APIs, Orchestrator has been the owner of those. So there needs to be some design discussions happening around those.
Sure. So just giving a little bit of a context on the reason behind the question, we are looking forward to use these APIs that Orchestrator expose for integration with the ONAP. We are trying to see some sort of a path towards the super 5G blueprint with the inclusion of Magma and ONAP as the first level of integration. So that's where I'm coming from, just as a background.
It will be really nice if you can post on the Slack channel or start a GitHub discussion around this. In terms of what you are trying to do, achieve, and what type of changes you think that is needed.
So at the moment, we are not really looking forward towards any code changes. They are just trying to work around what's available and what are the easy points of integrations, and then we'll look forward to it. Certainly, long term, there are multiple things ONAP can bring into, and I can try to fill in community with all the information on Slack channel eventually. Primary areas are lifecycle management, closed loop automation, and 5G network slicing that ONAP can bring in as a value add to Magma.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, just my 2 cents. The stability of the northbound API from the orchestrator is very critical. So we need some sort of a roadmap and visibility on that front. How we want to handle basically that API stability.
Okay, noted.
Hey, Ullas, this is Kader. Just FYI, the blueprint, 5G blueprint is pretty much is led by Amar Kapadia. I think it's from Arna Networks. We have had some discussions with him. We have requested some version of ONAP to be installed in Wavelabs lab to do some experiment around that area. I just want to let you know that, so you are aware.
Yeah, I mean, ONAP is a massive architecture. I mean, I guess you can practically integrate anything with it if you write the right drivers, and treat the orchestrator as a domain controller.
This is more from the network slicing point of view. We also had the demo together, Phil and some of the team members presented by Amar Kapadia, right? So how they have actually done the network slicing with some of the commercial vendors to get an understanding as to how that could be mapped to, in the Magma context, right? So Magma core network is not a core network that is envisioned to support millions of subscribers, but rather as an augmented edge core network. So how does that actually fit in? Some kind of a thought process discussions or started happening on that context, Ullas. I'll probably have a fine chat with you to discuss more on this. I'll get Suresh and all of us to talk on that. Just wanted to give it a
thanks for the heads up. Yeah, I look forward to seeing what you guys are doing on that front.
We still have about 15 minutes left. Is there anything else people would like to discuss? If not, then we can go ahead and end this meeting. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you, Kendall.
Thank you.
Thank you.